What's going on, everybody? It's your host, Will Cooper, coming back for another HuntStand podcast episode. On today's episode, of course, we're going to be talking turkey hunting, but we're going to be talking about the NWTF. We've got Pete Muller, who is the public relations manager on over at NWTF, and we're actually down in Texas with him at the recording of this podcast. We were putting some birds on the ground, hanging out with some Nashville, Tennessee country music artists, and just having a good old time. But we were able to take a little bit of time out of the crazy action. You know, we were getting up at 4 a.m. and not getting back till camp till 9 or 10 o'clock at night sometimes, just trying to roost birds, and it was an awesome time. But we're going to get Pete on here to talk about NWTF, all the different initiatives they have going on there to save the habitat, save the hunt, so that we've got more birds to hunt in the future, all the different things they're doing over there at NWTF. But we got Pete on here to talk about that, some turkey hunting. We've also got Mr. Josh Dalkey on here again to just talk about turkeys and what they're doing down in Texas at the time of this hunt. Just kind of recapping what we did, how we hunted them, and what was going on. But nonetheless, we just want to thank all of y'all for tuning into the HuntStand podcast. We greatly appreciate your support. If you haven't yet, head on over and rate, review, and make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so as soon as we drop new episodes, you get notifications on Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening. But once again, we just want to thank y'all for all your support over here at the HuntStand podcast, and we hope you enjoy it. All right, gentlemen, we are live. We're out here south central Texas, if you will, and we're live Texas Turkey Camp. We're here, HuntStand, NWTF. We're doing a lot of good things. Birds have been hitting the ground, and we've got Josh Dalkey from HuntStand, and we've got Pete Muller from NWTF. So, gentlemen, welcome to the podcast.
Absolutely, man. Just a pleasure to be on here. It's been a great week so far, and always a pleasure sharing camp with people who care as much about those turkey birds as we do.
It's been a long days the past couple of days.
It has, man. I actually think that this is one of the neatest turkey camps that I've ever been to, mainly because it's totally different from what you think of when you think of Texas turkey hunting. I mean, this is not brush country. This is some serious terrain, and we've been at it early in the morning till late at night, getting after birds all off the roost and making sure we're putting them back to bed, and it's been interesting for sure.
Before we dive into everything, I want to talk. Let's give the listeners a little DL on what all has happened, who we've had in camp, and specifically what happened last night. I know we've got pretty much one morning sit left before everybody flies out, but let's talk about the birds that have hit the ground recently.
Sure, man. So first off, this is kind of a fun camp for everybody. You know, HuntStand, you guys are here doing your own thing, but NWTF, we're here shooting a series that we started last year called Gobblers and Guitars, and it's pairing together country music, singer-songwriters, and outdoor pursuits, specifically turkey. So we've got Jenna LeMasters, Whitney Duncan, and then we also had Jordan Rowe here in town, who were all based out of Nashville. Only one of them had ever killed a turkey before, and he had never even chased birds outside of South Georgia. So brand new experience for all three of them. We've been working hard to get them birds. Right now, 2 out of the 3 have put birds on the ground. And the one that you're talking about from last night, I think people will relish in seeing the footage whenever it comes out. But the opportunity to double up, single shot double, and put down 2 monster birds, that the overall footage is epic. You guys have seen it. I think it's a truly awesome experience the way we've been able to hunt birds here. Base jumping off of cliffs. Crazy terrain for everything that these turkeys are dealing with. It's amazing.
I can't wait to see the footage off all this. Y'all's probably going to be a 2-part, 3-part series?
So we will have a 3-part series. We'll kick it off just with an overall teaser of everything that's going on here. And then each one of our singer-songwriters will have their own story, kind of telling a little bit about themselves, their music, their stories, and kind of putting together a nice little piece. Looking forward to it.
Sweet. Josh, you put a bird down second morning. How did that feel?
I did. It was, I've been hunting turkeys now for 20-some years, and I've hunted Rios about 6 different times. And like Pete said, I don't know. I guess if I had to have an iconic Rio Grande turkey hunt, this would probably be the one, at least out of my experience.
Mm-hmm.
The places I've been, like these turkeys feel really, really wild, and it's almost like if you take it back to the old days when there were like remaining pockets of eastern birds in Missouri and the Ozarks. To me, that's kind of what it feels like down here at this ranch, in the spot that we call the Devil's Nest, which is essentially like a pocket that's surrounded by huge canyon walls on three sides, and there's just this population of turkeys that lives down there in the heart of it. And like, if Rios were ever at the point that Easterns were, it feels like the last remaining population would be in the Devil's Nest. I mean, these turkeys, I would bet you that there are turkeys in the Devil's Nest that have not seen a human being before. And it feels super authentic, like you're hunting the most pure Rio Grande turkeys that you could. We're not hunting senderos where you're, basing a lot of the hunt off of corn. I mean, that's just Texas. There's not a lot of good dirt down here for food plots, and there's not a lot of moisture. So it's just natural that you feed wild game with protein feeders and corn feeders. And that's how you do a lot of your patterning for your hunting, including turkeys, where it's completely legal. But here it's like you got this population of turkeys that are just down there living life, running this dry creek bed, eating a bunch of natural vegetation, and you got oak trees and all this stuff, and they're just out there browsing, living their life. And when I killed that turkey a couple days ago, I can honestly say that it was in the most beautiful place I've ever shot a wild turkey in my whole time as a turkey hunter. It was insane.
Oh, by far, like those pictures don't do, like, I know the pictures were cool, but it just didn't do that scenery justice.
No, the pictures nor the footage do it justice. Like, you can sit here and like try to visualize what we've been seeing, but I guess that's one of the cool parts about it. Even when you're photographing and filming a hunt, like, that what you show to people at the end, like, you still get to hang on to that little piece that the viewer doesn't even get. Like, that's your special little heart of the hunt that you cannot express through the lens of a camera. And that's what you get to cling on to. Like nobody else can experience it the way that you did. We try to do our best to portray that and show it, but it never does it justice. And that's all the more reason to get out there and do it yourself.
I agree, man. I agreed. This is a special place that we're at down here. So, Pete, let's talk NWTF. And I know I've kind of done this a little backwards, but typically I start the podcast off with doing a 30-foot tree stand view of who our guests are. Everybody's met Josh already, but give us a 30-foot tree stand view of who you are, man. What do you do for NWTF? Title? Give us the skinny of Pete.
Oh, goodness gracious, man. So been with the Turkey Federation, it's either 8 or 9 years at this point. But my entire tenure at the organization, I've been involved with communications department, whether, press releases when I first started, helping out on social media. Now I manage website and am involved in a lot of different touch points on the communication side. And this instance here where we're down here doing some shooting. This is just one small thing where a couple times a year I help put together some camps. Again, this time fortunate enough that Josh and I were able to get this thing together. But it's really trying to help shape the brand as we move forward, trying to tell the NWTF story in a new way, and share the experiences that are being made possible by the great work of our volunteers on the ground. All those people that are out there helping to raise funds, helping to make sure that there are turkey birds around for, the newbie hunters and first time hunters like we have here in camp. Mm-hmm. But, I honestly don't even know what my title is anymore. It's one of those things.
Man of many hats.
But we've got a lot of great people on the communications team that are helping to put together books and turkey call episodes and all the great content, just telling all the great things that are going on right now.
Sweet, man. One of the things I want to kind of dive into, because I feel like my generation specifically and younger don't have a real grasp on what a lot of conservation groups do. I think they see them, they think they're cool, but I don't think they have like a real big grasp. And so kind of tell us a little bit, what all exactly does NWTF do? I mean, obviously we're talking turkeys, but what all does NWTF do?
All right. So, before I tell what we do now, I'm going to give just a very, very quick backstory. But obviously, NWTF was started back in '73 with a mission of helping to conserve this bird that we all love chasing every spring. But it was also an organization that knew the importance of our hunting heritage and what that was going to be able to do to help continue these pursuits, into the future for future generations. So, obviously, through all the work that was done with partners, members, volunteers, state agencies, the bird went from about 1.2, 1.3 million up to almost 7 million at its height. Now we're actually sitting at about, I think it's anywhere between like a 15 to 18% decline off that high, but we're still sitting at 6.25 million birds across the country. And so we've now spent a lot more time not transplanting birds place to place, but what we're doing is trying to make sure that the habitat for these birds specifically is suitable to help them continue to breed, reproduce, have high recruitments, and it's all part of a cycle that that is beneficial to species far beyond just the American wild turkey. But we're doing all those things in addition to funding research. We actually just announced additional funding that we opened up. We've been taking requests for proposals on that.
Yeah.
I think that's actually getting ready to close here soon. But we're starting new, larger landscape level initiatives that are bringing in non-hunting, and outdoor partners into the fold. But just people that have a shared sense of outdoor recreation, and we're getting to share our story with them. They're getting to learn about what we're doing and how it benefits everybody. Whether you like outdoor recreation, or you like clean water, or you like, healthy forests around it. I mean, obviously certain parts of the country, the work that we're doing is as simple as helping to maintain habitat for birds, but it's also helping to cut down on wildfires. It's a very, very important thing to a lot of communities. But then we're still involved in some of our hunter recruitment pieces, because we understand that while the total number of hunters may not really be changing, the percent of the overall population is changing, and that's the part that's decreasing. And for us to be able to continue these pursuits, we do need to have an increased voice to weigh in on policies, and those are things that we're also involved in. State level, federal policies, all those things. I actually just saw today that Recovering America's Wildlife Act just passed out of committee. It'll go on to the Senate floor. But those are things that we've been pushing for to try to help get additional funding for wildlife conservation. So there's a lot of touch points beyond what normal people see. The part that they see the most of is, hey, I go to a banquet, have a whole lot of fun with my friends, bid on some cool gear that I'm going to then put up out in my house, or they go to convention, become a member that way. But they sometimes maybe don't understand where all their money's going. But there's a lot of great funding. I think, even in a COVID year, it was still 86 cents on the dollar that we're putting back towards mission-related activities. And then we're able to leverage that sometimes as much as, 20 to 1, but on an average, probably closer to about 10 to 1 to get great stuff done across the country and in high-need areas of impact for those turkeys.
Got it. Why?
That was a whole lot more winded than probably what you were expecting.
No, I like it, man. I do. I want to back it up a step. Why do you think, like I've heard this not only from you, but from other sectors in the hunting industry, why do you think our hunter numbers are decreasing? Because to me, it doesn't make sense when you hear about how many public land hunters there are out there. What's your thought on it? What's your take?
I think this is all work that we did actually in looking at the overall organization as a part of the rebrand. It's that, again, it's not so much that the total number of people hunting is changing.
Okay.
It's just that the U.S. population obviously is growing.
Yeah.
But if you keep that flat line of, with ebbs and flows of the total amount of people hitting the woods, whether public, private, or whatever, if you're increasing the amount of space that they have to occupy, but you're still keeping that same sliver, they just become a smaller percentage. So this isn't, whether it's, 16 or 11 million as far as the people hunting, you compare that with the total U.S. population. Since the 80s, it's gotten to be far more or far less percentage of the population. Yeah. And that matters when it comes to things like policy, is if you're that tinier voice trying to speak up saying, hey, we're here and this is something that's important to us, but the majority of people really don't care about hunting or understand even what it does for their stuff, then that you're at a disadvantage.
See, and I think one of the cool things too about hunter recruitment, if you will, just talking all of this, I've had a lot of people that see the things that I'm doing on social media, see things that he does and other things, and I get hit up all the time that people want to learn how to hunt. Have you seen that before?
Absolutely. I think it's one of those things that the traditional ways of people learning to hunt, and Josh may or may not disagree or agree with me on this, but the traditional way of people learning to hunt is gone, where not everybody's learning from their family member or a dad. It's they're being brought in different ways. Maybe they saw something on YouTube, and now that's what they do, is they just watch YouTube videos all the time. And that's how they're trying to figure it out. Yeah. Or they have a friend that taught them how to do it. But there still is plenty of recruitment happening. But there's also in that more traditional way of through somebody that they know that's giving them that exposure to outdoor pursuits. But there's still a lot more people. Again, the U.S. population has increased. There's still a lot more people out there that, especially now, are wanting to eat more healthy. They're wanting to source their food in different ways. They're wanting to get out and get exercise. People actually are putting down electronics and getting outdoors at a higher clip. And maybe that's one of the best things to come from COVID. But there's people out there eager to learn, and we could either turn our nose up at them and say, hey, there's not enough space to go around, or we could educate them to where even if they say, you know what, hey, maybe this isn't for me, but I totally get it now, we're at least making an impact on them and maybe bringing somebody into our circle that then will also become an advocate for us.
All right, y'all, we're going to interrupt this podcast real quick from a word from our sponsors and to thank them for the support of the HuntStand podcast. First, we got Federal Premium Ammunition. It's federal season. There's nothing louder than a gobble from a long beer that struts into range, or silence as complete as after you take the shot. Celebrate the ultimate rite of spring with Federal. Up next, we've got Work Sharp Tools. Sharpen every knife you own. And finally, we've got Yamaha Outdoors. Revs your heart. So we just want to thank them for their support of the HuntStand podcast, and we're going to get right back to it. Tell us about Help the Yo.
So, I touched on this very briefly, but there's a lot of people in a younger generation right now that has never known that the perils of a turkey population that wasn't as plentiful. I mean, they came up in a time where birds were at their peak or slowly moving backwards, but we're at a time where we're seeing, as an overall American wild turkey population, we're seeing unhealthy things that are going on, whether it be too many birds in certain places, and you see that in urban areas, and obviously that's not healthy because it leads to more interactions. But there's also pockets where there's declines and people aren't hearing as many gobbles. They're not getting those quality hunts. And again, it's not that they're not just killing birds, but us as turkey hunters, we love just getting out into the woods and hearing that gobble. That equates a successful morning for a lot of people. If we were to take out Jenna and Whitney, on their first hunt, and they didn't even hear a peep, they'd be like, I don't really know if I get this whole thing that you guys are trying to tell me to do. So a lot of that's part of that hook, but there's bird numbers that again are just unhealthy, and we're trying to figure out why. And we know that to do so, there needs to be more people that are a part of conservation. And so when you look at overall turkey hunter numbers, and those numbers actually have gone down a little bit, and they, again, kind of ebb and flow. But I think right now there's, let's say, maybe 225 or 2.25 million turkey hunters. Right now, as adult members, we only have about 160,000. That's a slip after COVID, obviously, because we couldn't have banquets. But when you think that less than 10%, and it's even actually a much smaller percentage than that, are involved in conserving a bird that they care about, then you have to do what we can to try to change the messaging. And obviously for us, the bird has always been important, and we've always been doing research, but we have been talking more about the conservation and the habitat work, probably more than we have about the research. So this is something where we are reinforcing our commitment, trying to be a lot more vocal about the research part and why it's important for people to be members of the NWTF, to where we can leverage their dollars with partners, state agencies, to help really find out what's going on and try to work with all those states to try to bring back herd health, bring back the turkey population health, so to speak. Because again, for us as hunters and those that love chasing turkeys, we know that that's something that's very important to everybody, you know.
How many members does NWTF have?
I said, I think it's about 160,000 adult members, where, you know, before COVID, we were sitting at about, let's say, 225,000 members.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this, actually. And a lot of it's just personal, not necessarily backed up by data, but just what I see as a hunter and as somebody who pays really close attention to all this stuff, and having been an NWTF member ever since I started turkey hunting when I was age 16. I've been a member of a committee for a local NWTF chapter, and I've really tried to pay attention to what's been going on with turkey management. And what I see is that ultimately it's possible that we witness what a lot of people would classify as a bubble with turkey numbers. And so we got to a point where there were no turkeys, and then next thing you know, there were enough turkeys to have a turkey season. And then the next thing you know, there's enough turkeys where people can go out, and just about anywhere you're going to be able to at least hear a gobble or be able to get on a bird. And now so many different factors have influenced a decline to the point where people are not having the level of satisfaction that they want when they go out on a hunt. The expectations have gotten very high, and some of that's due to media. I mean, people see a turkey hunting video, or, you know, they read a magazine article or whatever, and they think they go out and it's just going to be an easy thing. And hunting shouldn't be easy. We're dealing with wild animals, and so, like, there's always going to be a challenge. But I remember in the heyday of turkeys, because I was there for it, I mean, it was like there were turkeys running around all over the place. And a lot of the places where I hunt now across the country, it's true that that's not the case. Mm-hmm. And so I think what it ultimately boils down to is that you could view it as a bubble, or you could view it as that bubble actually is sustainable, where we can have the greatest turkey populations, we can have the greatest turkey hunting opportunities, regardless of how many people are out there. But the only way we're going to actually be able to keep that level that we had is by active engagement. And one of the ways to do that is through being part of the NWTF, supporting what they do, putting money into it, working on research and management and all the things at the ground level that you need to maintain those populations so that everybody can go out and have a good experience. Yeah. Like, it'd be easy to just say, well, yeah, that was the heyday, but it's not going to be like that anymore. Well, that could be the case, but you get what you put in. It's an investment. It's always an investment for conservation. And like Pete said, when you're talking about a percentage of the population of people who hunt and people who can influence policies, that's really what it comes down to. It's where do people's values lie? So even if somebody isn't a hunter, if they can see the value in a wild resource just because it enriches their daily life in some manner, you know, whether they have cleaner air or better water or whatever it is, everything we do for wildlife management ultimately influences the greater ecosystem and what people have and the experience they have in life with the environment. It all connects back to what we do as hunters and conservationists. And so that all circles right back to something like wild turkey management, where a lot of the projects that are being worked on influence the greater population, whether they hunt or not, whether they even think about it any time in their life about hunting a turkey or going out and walking in the woods. The reality is, and it can be proven over and over again, that everybody's quality of life is better if the environment is in better shape. And so as passionate turkey hunters, if you ever go and buy a turkey license or you have interest in turkey hunting, it behooves you to support an organization like the NWTF, because everything that they do not only puts more turkeys on the ground and in the tree and in the roost for you to go hunt, you're going to go hear more gobbles, but it also impacts the environment. And even if you don't turkey hunt, all the habitat work that's done, it affects upland game birds. It affects white-tailed deer, the number one game species in the whole world. It affects everything anybody does outdoors because all the projects influence the greater good. So, I mean, you have to choose where you're going to spend your money and focus your efforts as somebody who wants to contribute to that. But having been an NWTF member for approximately 23 years or something like that, I would say that it's a pretty good place to throw down some dough and do your part to support conservation.
I think even if you just, and obviously being with the NWTF, it's easy for me to say this, but we as turkey hunters, we spend a lot of money on turkey on our turkey pursuits. I mean, it's not the most expensive hunting that you can do. Obviously,
but it can be.
But we spend crazy amounts of money just on a box of ammo. I mean, the fact that even a box of, let's say, like Longbeard XR is $25, you're diving into TSS and you're $50 or more, you're talking about a $35 investment in the NWTF, and you could get a $25 Bass Pro card back, which you're then going to spend on brand new mouth calls or whatever it is to begin with. That's pretty small pennies in the whole drop in the bucket of what you're going to spend on your pursuits anyway. And if that's truly your passion, why wouldn't you be throwing in that extra little bit just to try to help make sure it's there for future generations? So,
man, I agree with all that. And, I think looking at Jenna, what happened to her yesterday evening, first time to ever hunt, and to be able to take two birds with one stone and one of them has a double beard, like that's what you got to do to get somebody hooked and get involved and do things with organizations.
Yeah, I think whether you take Jenna's story of the two birds, one shot, and one of them being a bird that most people will never ever shoot a double bearded or multi-bearded bird that. Or you take even Whitney's experience of just getting to watch bird after bird after bird. She did end up missing one, but she now has a drive to get back out, and she now has a goal that she was trying to complete when she came here of learning how to hunt turkeys and be able to take a bird. So now she may even have more fire than Jenna does. But they're both learning everything about it. I mean, we spent time teaching them calling, teaching them about the bird, the biology. I mean, Jenna dove in there and was helping to butcher her own birds. I mean, that's all part of the process of how you create a hunter and how you create somebody that's going to then work to protect that resource moving forward.
Man, like seeing that, like I'll probably get a little bit of hate when I say this, but I don't see a lot of women doing what she did yesterday, like wanting to dive in and learn all that. Like that was pretty awesome to see that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know that obviously there can be generalizations and you get people that don't want to dive in one way or the other, but I mean, we've also had the luxury of knocking down a few hogs here, and she was out there helping out.
That too.
Doing everything that she can because she's eager to learn and take it all in, because it's something where maybe she hasn't had anybody that's actually said, hey, here's an opportunity that's out there should you want it, and we'll do everything that we can to teach you about it. So she's soaking it all in. The amount of questions that I've answered just on stuff that seems rudimentary to somebody that's never done it before or never even been exposed to it before, those are all things that just, again, help create that hunter and build that fire to keep doing it.
Oh, she's hooked, dude. She's trying to figure out that mouth call. And then, Whitney, like, unfortunately, she had that miss this morning. Awesome experience. Like, I don't know how we did it, but we ended up setting up literally 6 feet under one of the roosts in this canyon. And, man, this afternoon, it was like we had a couple of hens milling around across the river from us. And dude, as soon as she saw the first one, gun up. She was ready. Like, she's in kill mode right now. She's hooked.
Yeah. I'll say one of the things that really impressed me about her is, she had a miss, but one of the very first things that she did when she got back to camp is she said, "Where's that box of ammunition? Like, I'm going to go put some more rounds through this gun. Like, I need to get more comfortable with it. I need to learn more about this gun. I need to figure out if I was doing something wrong." I mean, she could have just gone, you know what, that's it. I failed at what I was trying to do, or I failed at this thing, and I'm hanging it up. I don't want to go back out there.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot of people that happens to them. They're done, and then there's just that off vibe in camp the rest of the day.
Yeah,
and she's had good spirits.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, heck, just a little bit ago, she's in there singing some tunes and is a part of just a final night here in camp. But yeah, it's been a great experience so far. And we got one more crack at it in the morning, one more person to get a bird. One last morning out there in God's creation, getting to watch the world wake up, and in such a unique place. I can't be thankful enough for that.
Yeah. Well, man, tell the listeners where they can go and sign up to be a member of the NWTF.
Surely. So you can go simply just to NWTF.org, sign up to be a member there. Or if you prefer to go to one of these events, there's also a full list of events in your area. You can search those, find a banquet, find a committee, get involved. If turkeys are something that you're passionate about, there are opportunities waiting for you at a local committee level to where you can get involved. And I'd say that's really when you get the opportunity to put your money where your mouth is. And if turkeys are important, let's all work together to try to do something for them.
Absolutely. Well, sweet, man. Where can we find you on social media? I was looking through your page the other day, and tell us, man, if somebody wants to give you the old follow on the Instagram, find out who Pete is.
Man, I pretty much deleted all my social media.
You did?
Yeah. It's one of those things that I feel like I was spending a little bit too much time on. I do have one little passion project where
tell us about
it's a page that a friend of mine started up for me and gives me an outlet to post cooking content every now and again, but it's on Instagram and it's just called Fruits of the Wild. But it's where, take any of the game that I'm fortunate enough to chase throughout any of the seasons, whether it be spring all the way to fall or, winter for ducks and things like that, and just try to whip up things that are appetizing to me. Unfortunately, as Jordan pointed out earlier in this camp, he's like, you don't actually give us the recipes. You just show us this picture and then you just leave us hanging. And I was like, well, heck, drop me a line. And if I see you go, hey, how'd you make that? Then I'll do my best to recreate something and give you pointers on how to make it. But mainly it's just a place for me to post pictures of things that I think look good and look appetizing. So,
love it, man. Love it. Well, man, I know we got a lot of work to do. Appreciate you hopping on the podcast here this evening with us, just talking NWTF, conservation efforts, and helping teach some people out there about what the NWTF does.
Well, I tell you, it's something that wouldn't be possible. The work that we do, again, I'll say it's thanks to those members, the volunteers, thanks to partners that we have like HuntStand, great partners in you guys, and then also the other partners that we had that made this whole camp possible. Winchester came on board to try to help put it together. Shine United, and then friends over at Nomad just helping to outfit some folks in some Mossy Oak for the week, and actually then Mossy Oak as well. So pretty fortunate to have a lot of people come together to make some of these small camps happen, and hopefully we'll finish up with a good morning tomorrow.
Like, yeah, man. All right, y'all. That's another end to another HuntStand podcast episode. We just want to thank Pete and Josh for taking the time in a very busy and crazy, hectic turkey camp to sit down and podcast with me. I greatly appreciate the time and just hopping on talking turkeys, NWTF. Nonetheless, if you haven't yet, rate, review, subscribe to the HuntStand podcast. Check us out on everything we're doing on Instagram. And also, do me a favor, y'all. Head on over to YouTube and subscribe to our new YouTube channel. It's called Field Notes Outdoors. It's going to be strictly hunting content, some advice from other seasoned hunters, veteran hunters, a bunch of different people on there. We're going to be having a lot of really cool content coming out the rest of the spring and into the fall. Nonetheless, we just want to thank you for all your support, and we will see you on the next one.